Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Glow Frame. This is another episode for the podcast of Creepy Stories. This is another Reddit post about 7 years ago. The title is Unsettling Event I Encountered in the Woods of Northern Idaho. This is going to be a story, folks, so you better grab your favorite drink, your favorite snacks, and you better cuddle up in the corner, on your bed, on your couch, on the floor, and enjoy the storytelling. Throwaway account. For privacy reasons, I stumbled across a subreddit yesterday and have been reading every post I can. Quite a few of them remind me so much of an awful thing that happened to me in the woods a few years ago. What stood out the most to me and why I'm posting is the dead quiet so many people describe. To preference, I grew up in the rural woods of Midwest. My grandparents had a cabin of 160 acres in the Ozarks? Sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And my family home was in the woods of Ohio. I now live out west in a large city with my husband and my kids, but his family has a cabin in northern Idaho where we spend a lot of our time in the summer. That's where this all took place. So when I say I know the woods, I really do. This happened a few years ago in the middle of the summer. We had arrived at the cabin, only to realize my husband somehow had totally spaced and forgot to pack the hiking boots. I was livid because all I had on me was cheap flip-flops, and I had been so looking forward to hiking that weekend. It kind of put a sour mood to the evening, and we settled in. And though the cabin wasn't much, it was a part of a community and a cluster of other cabins. The one perk of ours is that it's right against a large field surrounded by woods. It's private property, and there's some weird story or history with the family that owned it. But the field is mostly abandoned. We have a 4-foot barbed wire fence that runs the length of the field to separate our land from that. It's not too far from the cabin. I'd say maybe 20 feet from our porch to the fence line. That night after dinner, I made up the air mattress for the kids and folded out the sofa bed for us. Soon everyone else was asleep, but since I have horrible insomnia, I was still up around 2 a.m. reading my Kindle and sipping wine when I heard the most god-awful noise. I slipped on my flip-flops and poked my head out the front door. There was a sound coming from the hill. I stepped out on the porch to listen more intensely. It's the sound of a coyote being hurt. At first, I thought possibly it was stuck in a trap, so I got so angry. My husband's family are known for our dogs, and the idea someone was trapping near us made me so angry. I cannot tell you how or why, but every cell in my body was screaming for me to help it. I ran inside to get a flashlight. It was a new moon outside, so no light, and once again felt myself upset I didn't have my boots. There was no way I was going to make it even to the fence line with my flip-flops. Between woods and terrain, it was happening near the corner of our property that can be best called a trash heap, abandoned camper, woodpile, etc. I had no idea what I could even do to help it, but I just so badly felt like I had to do something. So I went back outside, and all I could do was listen. The more I listened, the more I realized it was being attacked by something, and that's when the hair on my neck stood up. I realized everything was dead quiet. I have never before or after heard the woods like that. Whatever was attacking the coyote was also doing it silently. No snarls, no bark or yelp or growl. And so I stood there frozen and listening. I heard the final noises of the coyote die. I had tears in my eyes because it was such an awful sound. As soon as it died, I was hit with the force of sounds around me. Suddenly the neighbor's dogs were howling, barking. The bugs and crickets started up. It was like a switch had been flipped. I went from no sound to all the sounds in a blink of an eye. That's when I heard the footsteps. Whatever had attacked the coyote was suddenly on our side of the fence. It was walking along the fence line, and it clearly was bipedal. I could not stress this enough. I grew up in the woods. Humans and animals sound different, and this sounded like a human. It was clearly walking on two legs. I kept staring along the line, trying to see whatever it was, but as the footsteps grew closer to the middle of the property and I still couldn't see anything, I panicked and ran quickly back to the cabin. I locked the door and grabbed the hatchet and woke up my husband. I couldn't believe he was able to sleep through everything. He hadn't heard a thing. The next morning we went directly to where I told him the sounds were coming from, but I couldn't see anything. Through the field at that time of year is like 4-foot tall grasses, and we didn't expect to see anything, and I was not about to hop the fence to go looking for trouble. I would say I had never been so thankful to not have boots, because without a doubt I would have tried to hop that fence that night. I just know I would have. Something in me was screaming out to make it stop. Anyways, I've tried to put into words, but you can't explain the quietness that I heard. You think it was like saying that you're wearing noise-canceling headphones and listening to a coyote getting eaten and then flipping them off, but it's not like that. It's like truly a void of sound, like what I imagined being deaf would be like. Even the consistent low-key ringing in my ears were gone. The hum from the porch light was gone. The only thing I could hear was the coyote. And then the moment it died, all the sound around me came flooding back in, and there was so much sound, like dogs going crazy, coyotes in the distance screaming, frogs, bugs, humming of electricity, my own heartbeat. Everything was back all at once. Also, I find it weird that I needed to go help that coyote. I am a total chicken about things. If there's a bump in my house at night, I'm waking my husband and having him go downstairs to make sure no one's breaking in. I could see myself yelling out the door or bringing pots to try to scare things away, but I am not the kind of person who goes running towards something remotely dangerous. I cannot understand how or why I didn't wake him up, and why I was so driven and obsessed with running out to help that coyote. It was completely like a siren's song to me. Now this is me talking. When you are out and about, not at home, but out and about in the world, and everything becomes eerily quiet, you can still hear your voice. If you move something, you can hear the rumbling, so it's not your hearing that's going off. But if you are walking about in the open world and everything becomes dead quiet, run. Don't stay there any longer. Go, because prey animals are the indication that everything is fine if they are making sound. The second they stop making sound, that is a predator is in the area. It could be a wolf, it could be a bear, it could be something. The second the prey animals stop making sound is the moment that you book it. Go. Don't sit there, don't try to figure out what's happening. Go. I've heard many stories of people experiencing this stuff, and then they find out that it's a pack of wolves are in the area, a lion's in the area, a bear's in the area. You better pray to whatever faith that you believe in, that whatever predator is out there has not seen you or smelt you. Another commenter states in the bottom, incredible, terrifying story. I lived 15 air miles from Mount St. Helens and was mowing the lawn when May 18th eruption began. I turned off the mower, stared in awe, but after all these years, what amazes me to this day was the silence. It was dead silent for most of the day. Normally you can hear crickets, birds, snakes, rabbits, farm animals, dogs, cats, etc. Their land is an ecological wonderland. So the scariest part when I hear these stories is the description of things going silent. I'm 52 years old, and when I stay there, it always the same. Sounds of nature everywhere. It took a massive eruption to silence the farm. The mountain erupted for years, but I've never heard that happen before or since. I'll be extra careful out there. Something powerful enough to silence everything is not to be messed with. And I agree. That's why I stay my behind out of the forest. I only go in with a big group of people. I go in for a couple hours, I come back out. And when I'm camping, I am most definitely in the center of the camp. When everything goes silent, I go running. Alright, that is it for today's episode. We were treated with 2 stories, one long one and one short one. I hope you enjoyed these spooky stories. And until next time, see you in the next frame. Bye.